Welcome back to our channel. Today is a beautiful day to dive deep into the absolute chaos brewing in Port Charles. It seems like we are about to witness a daring rescue mission morph into an absolute, uncontrollable nightmare, and at the center of this impending disaster is none other than Nina. We all know she has a long, complicated habit of making the wrong choices for what she believes are the right reasons, but this time, the stakes are unimaginably high. Could it be that by trying to save the day, she is actually orchestrating her own spectacular downfall and the destruction of the very person she loves most in this world? The whispers around town suggest that a massive, earth shattering betrayal is on the horizon, and no one expected that the victims would become the ultimate executioners. If you look closely at the current shifting dynamics, it feels like a massive ticking time bomb just waiting to detonate and take half the town down with it. We have all been watching Nina risk absolutely everything to pull off this dangerous undercover operation, but the truth might be about to come out in a way that shatters her entire world into a million unfixable pieces. I mean, think about the sheer agonizing irony of the situation. She genuinely believes she is the puppet master, carefully pulling the delicate strings to keep everyone safe and out of prison. But what if she is just another disposable pawn on a board controlled by men who have absolutely nothing left to lose? This means that the upcoming episodes could deliver a psychological shockwave that will leave the entire town reeling for months. Let us take a step back and look at the fragile, terrifying house of cards that is currently standing in Port Charles. Right now, everything appears to be moving exactly according to the script Nina has written in her head, at least on the surface. She has been secretly working in the darkest shadows, risking her own life, her freedom, and her reputation to help Brennan and Drew escape the terrifying, mind-bending control they have been subjected to. It is a high-stakes game of psychological cat and mouse, and honestly, you have to give her credit for her sheer, unadulterated nerve. She has positioned herself as the absolute crucial link, the secret messenger who is expertly hiding the truth from everyone while keeping the vital lines of communication open. She thinks she is the mastermind, the silent guardian angel orchestrating a miracle behind closed doors. Meanwhile, Brennan and Drew are putting on the absolute performance of a lifetime. They are continuing to play possum, pretending to still be incredibly weak, physically broken, heavily medicated, and completely manipulated by the sinister forces that captured them. It is a brilliant calculated strategy to misdirect Cullum and Sidwell, lulling those arrogant villains into a deeply false sense of security. If you ask me, this charade is as dangerous as it gets. One wrong move, one slipped expression, a single moment of clarity shining through their feigned days, and Cullum and Sidwell would end them in a heartbeat. Nina is the desperate anchor keeping this fragile illusion alive, waiting with bated breath for the perfect, golden moment for them to launch their righteous counterattack. And let us not forget about Cullum and Sidwell in all of this. It seems like they are so blinded by their own power and their perceived absolute control over the situation that they cannot see the violent rebellion brewing right under their noses. They view Nina as a pawn, a useful idiot who can be manipulated to serve their grander, darker schemes. They believe Brennan and Drew are completely broken, hollowed out shells of the formidable men they once were. This means that the villains are leaving themselves wide open to a catastrophic blindside. But the most shocking twist of all is that the blindside might not just hit Cullum and Sidwell. It might completely decimate the very woman who is facilitating it. This is exactly where the storyline could take a massive, incredibly dangerous, and heartbreaking detour. As Brennan and Drew are secretly recovering in the shadows, slowly regaining their physical strength and, more importantly, their sharp mental clarity, their perspective on the entire harrowing ordeal might be shifting dramatically. When you are locked away, fighting for your very survival, your only goal is drawing your next breath. But as the mental fog lifts, the cold, calculating anger sets in. They are having endless hours to sit in the dark, piece together the complex timeline of their captivity, and analyze exactly how they ended up in this living nightmare. And guys, it seems like their dark revelations are going to point directly back to the woman who is currently bringing them their salvation. The more time they have to reflect and whisper to each other in the dead of night, the more Brennan and Drew might realize that Nina's hands are far from clean in this tangled, bloody mess. Sure, she is helping them right now, but how much did she actively cover up to let things get this far in the first place? It is highly likely that they are starting to see the massive complicated web of lies Nina spun to protect her own selfish interests before she finally decided to play the hero. They're connecting the dots, realizing that her silence and her compromises with the devil allowed their torture to continue much longer than it ever should have. And then there's the most dangerous realization of all, the Willow factor. It seems like Brennan and Drew are coming to the harsh conclusion that Willow can no longer be viewed as just an innocent, oblivious bystander in this twisted, dark saga. Her proximity to the danger, the secrets she has been swimming in, and the desperate lengths her mother went to in order to shield her might just make her acceptable collateral damage in their eyes. They might start to believe that Willow's willful ignorance is just as toxic as Nina's active deception. If you ask me, this is where the narrative turns from a standard soap opera rescue into a chilling psychological thriller. This completely, fundamentally changes the trajectory of their impending revenge. We are no longer looking at a simple, straightforward rescue and retaliation mission against the obvious bad guys. We are looking at a full-scale, scorched earth purge. Brennan and Drew's ultimate goal might be shifting from merely taking down Cullum and Sidwell to dragging absolutely everyone who had a hand in this conspiracy, directly or indirectly, out into the blinding, unforgiving light of day. They want a total cleansing of Port Charles. They want to burn the corruption to the ground, and they are reaching a point where they simply do not care who gets caught in the roaring flames. Think deeply about the psychology of strong, independent men who have been violently stripped of their autonomy and treated like disposable pawns. Brennan and Drew are furious, harboring a deep, simmering rage that needs a massive outlet. They are no longer looking at Nina as their absolute trusted ally or their savior. Instead, they might be viewing her as a highly culpable participant, a co-conspirator who must be held legally and morally accountable for the sheer volume of dark secrets she buried. They are essentially using her now, just as she thought she was using the situation to her advantage. The upcoming betrayal is going to be so deeply psychological, a silent, terrifying shift in power where the rescued become the ultimate ruthless predators. Now, let us talk about the absolute suffocating nightmare Nina is about to find herself trapped in. She is going to be caught in the most agonizing, soul-crushing dilemma of her entire life. Every single desperate move she has made, every lie she has told Cullum and Sidwell, every risk she has taken in the dead of night has been driven by one primal, overpowering instinct: to protect Willow. That is her fatal flaw, her eternal Achilles heel. She thought she was building an impenetrable fortress around her daughter, but it seems like she was actually digging a massive, inescapable grave for both of them. How utterly devastating would it be for Nina to finally realize that the very men she pulled from the wreckage, the men she risked federal prison to save, are the ones meticulously preparing to drop the guillotine on her family? The tragic irony is almost too much to bear. Nina opened the door to this massive, town-destroying tragedy while trying to be the ultimate hero. If the hard evidence connecting Nina, Cullum, Sidwell, and Willow is suddenly compiled and exposed to the authorities by the very victims she aided, the legal and social fallout will be apocalyptic. So, what are the possible heart-stopping outcomes as this volatile powder keg gets ready to blow sky high? Well, no one expected that a storyline about taking down two international villains could end with our leading ladies in handcuffs. But the truth might be about to come out in the most public, humiliating, and devastating way possible. Imagine the horrifying scene: a crowded public room in Port Charles, maybe the bustling lobby of the hospital or the dining room of the Metro Court, and the police march in with warrants. Not just for Cullum, not just for Sidwell, but for Nina and her precious daughter. We could be looking at a deeply traumatic scenario where Nina has to stand there, utterly helpless, paralyzed by shock, and drowning in the deepest, darkest regret imaginable, as she watches her beloved daughter be handcuffed and read her rights in front of the entire town. This would be the ultimate, crushing punishment for Nina. A lifetime of yearning for her child, fighting through hell to finally get her back, only to be the direct, undeniable cause of her absolute ruin. From a secret, desperate plan to save lives, everything has slowly mutated into a ruthless, sweeping purge orchestrated by Brennan and Drew. They are determined to make every single guilty party pay the ultimate price, and in their hardened eyes, ignorance or misguided maternal love is absolutely not a valid excuse. The collateral damage is going to be astronomical, and the emotional wreckage left in the wake of this betrayal will take years to clean up. The tension is practically suffocating right now. Will Nina figure out that her so-called allies have turned against her before they spring their meticulously laid trap? Or is she walking blindly into a massacre of her own making, leading Willow right into the crosshairs of Brennan and Drew's unyielding vengeance? Could it be that someone else will uncover this double cross in time, or is the fate of these women already sealed by the very men they tried to save? We will just have to keep watching to see who survives this impending bloodbath.